magic of Christmas never ends.
I think he's like the richest guy in town. I have an idea. We buy rich clothes and we spend the weekend in his mansion. Who's with me?
This is never going to work.
Watch me jingle bell dance the night away. The fireplace is burning.
They're behaving very peculiar.
We have a big problem.
Put down the ball, son.
You have got to be kidding me!
Ladies, gentlemen, this is a historic mansion, not a playground.
All right, gang, let's go.
I hate that Kentucky Joe. I hate his entire circus of fools.
Here's Christmas.
Jingle bell dance, jingle bell dance, jingle bell dance, jingle bell dance.
What the hell is going on here?
I'm just here for the cookies.
Watch me jingle bell dance the night away.
There's one thing that I've learned is that you need to be with the people who love you the most on Christmas.
Watch me jingle bell dance the night away. I'll still keep the party running all night, all night, all night.
I would appreciate a tip.
Don't eat yellow snow. Hell of a tip. Always helped me through life.
What's up, guys? Lance, the Obscure Movie Guy, coming to you once again with another fun-filled, fact-filled video that you probably won't care about, but we're going to do it anyways, trying to change the world one post at a time. And what you just saw was the trailer for upcoming film from Little Monster Entertainment, Homeless for the Holiday. Now, let me just prerequisite my review of this movie as one, I am not a fan of Christmas movies. I never have been. But I've got my Christmas attire on. Don't stop believing. And Christmas movies for me, they're the bane of my existence. One, my wife calls me the Grinch, Scrooge, and everything in between because I don't like Christmas to begin with. And as far as Christmas movies go, well, my type of Christmas movie is more like, you know, Silent Night, Deadly Night, Die Hard, Lethal Weapon, Batman Returns. Those are my types of Christmas movies, not the hunky-dory, life's good kind of crap that you see on the Hallmark and Lifetime channel. But nonetheless, my buddy Whit Whitman sent me Homeless for the holidays and wanted me to check it out and give it a review, so that's what we're going to do today. So, bearing my hatred for Christmas movies in mind, I gotta honestly say, this movie wasn't that bad. I was actually kind of surprised, pleasantly surprised really, with the storyline, the wholeheartedness of this movie, and the acting. Now, I think Whit Whitman would probably agree with me a little bit that this movie is written a little formulaic as far as a standard Christmas movie goes that you would catch on Netflix, Hallmark, Lifetime, any of that stuff. However, there are a few twists and turns along the way to try and add some originality to the storyline and the movie itself, and those played out really well. So basically, the movie follows a group of homeless people that live under a bridge, and they come across a wad of cash from the richest guy in town and decide to take that money and go and buy rich people's clothes, as they would say, and try to spend the weekend at the rich guy's house as his long-lost family from none other than Portugal, of all places. The beauty of it is we do get a little bit of a twist at the end of the film where there is a part of a long-lost family storyline that ties in to make everything come together nice and cohesive. I really enjoyed the storyline of this movie because even though it is a bit formulaic, as we talked about, the twists and turns do give it some originality and separate it from a lot of the other crap that I tend to have to watch with my wife on Lifetime, Hallmark, and Netflix. Look, I don't like Christmas movies, plain and simple. They're garbage. Most of them are garbage. And I think a lot of people can attend to that when they see the same storyline written out over and over and over and regurgitated over and over and over again with a lot of these Christmas movies. But Whit Whitman has taken that same formula and kind of twisted it around, given it its own originality and separated it from the bunch and given it a nice comedic twist. And there's a lot of underlining details throughout the course of this movie that you can miss if you don't pay attention. What I really did like, though, with the storyline and the writing is that in the end of it, and I think Whit Whitman even said this in an interview, that part of this storyline he kind of grasped from the Barbie movie. And it sounds weird, and I did see the Barbie movie, but I think I can allude to what he's trying to get there, in that in the Barbie movie and in this movie is that I think everybody just wants a sense of belonging in life. And what you have here in this movie, I think kind of what he took a little bit from the Barbie movie, was relationships with people that you just want to have the feeling of belonging. I belong with these people, or I belong here, or I belong in this world. And you got that with this movie. It was, like I said, it's a very underlining detail, but you have all of these groups of people that, even though they're together, they're apart. And there's a little bit of a break off from certain characters where they kind of find that little bit of a relationship that they're looking for. I'll give you a great example. He's got a character in the movie, an old lady, lovely old lady that has Alzheimer's and refers to everybody as Tommy. She's looking for her son, Tommy, that she can remember Tommy, but doesn't remember what he looks like, doesn't remember what he sounds like. And then you have another gentleman in this mansion, stepbrother to the wealthy guy who owns the house, who is longing for a mother. And they do have a really nice bonding moment where she gets to play the mother to him and he gets to play son to the mother. And there's little relationships like that built throughout the course of this film that's where you get a lot of that originality from. You have these characters that are driven by wanting this, you know, relationship with somebody, and they're finding it with the most random of people. So top notch on Whit Whitman for writing the storyline like that, because if you don't pay enough attention to it, you will miss it. And I thought it was really cool how it was sprinkled out throughout the course of the movie and amongst all of the characters. Another great thing that was written into this film was the comedic aspect of it. Some of it is formulaic, as we've talked about, but there is a lot of nods to old-timey type of like slapstick, Three Stooges, Marx Brothers type comedy that, again, if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it. And that's a real shame, because the comedy and the wholeheartedness is really where this movie thrives. There's even, look, there's a pie fight, there's a dance battle, which I also think was probably inspired from Barbie a little bit. But those two things, plus some of the slapstick comedy, it's really, really good. It's really entertaining. And the actors involved selling the comedy aspect of this film did an amazing job. And that's what we're going to dive into next, is this big cast that Whit Whitman had working for him. 26 or 27 overall actors on screen, not all at the same time, but a very large group of actors for an independent film like this. And Whit Whitman did a great job of giving everybody ample screen time, an ample story arc. Every character seems to have its own little beginning, middle, and end, whether it be tragic or not. And I'm not going to spoil all the things for it, but every character seems to have some sort of beginning, middle, and end, or at least a beginning and a fitting ending, even if they only had a couple minutes or if they had 10 or 12 minutes of screen time. So props to Whitman on that as well. The acting in this movie is something that we should really discuss, because the actors that are selling the comedic aspects of this film and the wholeheartedness all did an amazing job. We do see some familiar faces. Now, if you've been following me, which you should, you undoubtedly seen me talk about Whit Whitman's film Unnatural that came out in October, which was a kind of like a horror western, or a western horror, depending on how you look at it. More western than horror, if anything. But you see some of the same familiar faces. We're going to see John Wells, which you've seen me talk about in a number of films. We're going to see Al Snow again. We're going to see Darren Lee Cupp again. And what I like about this, one, John Wells is quickly becoming one of my favorite actors. This is like the fourth or fifth thing that I've seen him in. You know, we talked about him for the Mahal Empire with Arena Wars, Devil's Night. We talked about him with Unnatural, and now Homeless for the Holidays. And John Wells, each of those movies, he plays a very different character. So he's not one-dimensional, clearly, especially if you've watched any of his films. And he does a very, very good job of pulling off this stiff English bastard of a butler who takes care of this house. And again, if you follow me, then you'll know that, like, I have one of my points of contention is people that try to do accents and can't pull them off. Sometimes, you know, they hit it nail on the head, and in another line they blow it. But not John Wells. He did an accent in Devil's Night, which played a completely different character and a little bit different English accent than he does in this one. And he does it superbly well. Like, there's no there's no like misunderstanding of like what he's conveying. There's no like he hits a line really well and then he blows the next one. Like he is very consistent with his accent throughout the course of this film, and I loved his character that he played. He did such a good job. And I'll give you a perfect example. If you watch this movie and watch the dance battle, John Wells dances not very well, and that's probably on purpose. I'm willing to bet he's got a little bit better rhythm than Edmund Griffiths, the butler that he played. But again, it's a minor detail on John Wells' part, but when he does the dance battle, he does a very, very good job of looking like somebody who can't dance, but also has this look on his face of vulnerability and uncomfortableness that the butler is going through with this dance battle. And it was done really well, and it's just a minor detail, but for me it really brought it home for me as far as that character. When he portrayed the character in that particular moment, like that's everything you needed to know about that butler and what he is dealing with. Good job on John Wells' part for that. Now, Darren Lee Cupp didn't have a whole lot of screen time in this one, but I was really surprised, though, how versatile Darren Lee's look is, which sounds kind of weird, but when you take a look at a guy that's got long hair, he looked perfect as the sheriff deputy, I guess, sheriff deputy in Unnatural. And then in this film, again, he still has the long hair, the goatee, but he's able to pull off this look of somebody that does have a lot of money, but keeps themselves together. And it's just a polar opposite of what he was in the last film that I saw him in. So props to him on that. Really well done. I wish he'd had a little bit more screen time, but given the storyline, I understand why he didn't have a lot of screen time. Now, the other big name in this film is obviously going to be Al Snow, former WWE superstar. He played Dan Remington in Unnatural, and in this one he plays Kentucky Joe. I love how his character names are always like this, kind of like Western theme to it. But Kentucky Joe is kind of the ringleader of this band of homeless people that live under the bridge, and they all kind of follow him with his ideas and everything. But Al Snow looks like he is just having a freaking great time being this character. He just ran with this and just looked like he did what he wanted, had a good time, and the on-screen chemistry comes through very well throughout the course of this film with his character and just the good time that they're having. And Kentucky Joe, we don't really know a whole lot about Kentucky Joe as far as his backstory goes. Some of it gets revealed at the end, but definitely may have had some head trauma, doesn't exactly recall things the way that they probably were, maybe embellishes some of his stories a little bit throughout the course of the film, but that's all to play in the part, and the truth comes out in the end of what was going on with Kentucky Joe. And Al Snow had a really good time. He looked like he had a blast doing this film, and he was one of my favorite actors throughout the course of the film. Him and John Wells, amazing job. And interestingly enough, I do want to talk about Santa and the Elf. Are they really Santa and really an elf? Nobody knows. But Timothy Pogg and Billy Crank played Santa Claus and Jack Elfman. And I really liked their dynamic because it came across as kind of like a Penn and Teller type thing, where Pogg is playing Santa Claus, as it would be. And, you know, Jack Elfman is his handy elf, you know, that helps keep things, writing them down on nothing and keeping track of everything. But Billy Crank, you know, he's a very interesting character actor that the only reason I'm familiar with him is because I was a big Jim Varney fan. I loved Ernest Scared Stupid. I love Ernest Saves Christmas. I'm a big Jim Varney fan. I even like his work that's not Ernest. And you guys have hopefully heard me talk about Jim Varney in some other videos about his ability to act. You know, and obviously a lot of his acting abilities was overshadowed by the Ernest character, but Billy Crank is actually a character actor that has filled in as Ernest in some other TV spots throughout the course of the years, shortly after Jim Varney's death. Now, obviously, you can never really replace Jim Varney, but it was kind of cool to know that as a character actor, Billy Crank has been able to kind of, in some sort of small way, at least keep the legacy of Ernest going. And I would actually... I'm not big on reboots, but if something would be done correctly, you couldn't maybe replace Ernest per se, but it would be interesting to see maybe Ernest's cousin, Ernie, or something like that, and Billy Crank pull that off. Either way, I did like the relationship and the dynamic. Like I said, it reminds me a lot of The Magician's Penn and Teller. You got this big guy, you got this little guy. One does all the talking, one does none of the talking, and it was just kind of cute and fun to see. Also want to give a shout out to Brashay Crumb, who played Samantha Radcliffe in this film. And actually all three, there's three young actresses out in this movie, and they all did a really, really good job. Brashay Crumb, I liked her character and her story arc, how she came to be with the group of people and where she goes at the end of the movie, I thought was really well done. And Anne-Marie Olsen as Mary Ann, she was a fun character to watch. She just loves to clean. That's all she wants to do. Which is odd, because as a homeless person, you don't really get to stay clean. So maybe that's where the OCD with cleaning came from, is the fact that she is homeless, she can't be clean, and she just wants to clean. So really good shout out to those two, especially the three young actresses that played the teenage girls. They again, you know, one ran away from home, one's disconnected from her father, you know, the other one doesn't understand, you know, the complexities of, you know, family life, and they all look towards each other, you know, as a relationship goal. You know, I want to belong with somebody, and this is going to be my little group of people to belong to. So again, a nod to Whit Whitman writing the storyline as that, these girls portraying those emotions at such a young age. You know, you're only talking 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old actresses having to do these complex emotions throughout the course of this film, and we're able to pull it off really well. Overall, not a bad movie. You know, for me, like I said, I don't like Christmas movies, and this is one of the ones that I could sit down and watch again if I had to. You know, I like the fact that Whit Whitman went out of his way to write a good storyline that kind of separates itself and give it some originality, even though it's a formulaic setup. So props to him on that. He did a really good job. And like I said, there's so many minor details in this movie that this is probably one of those films that I could go back and watch again and find a whole nother set of details that I missed before. You know, and it's just those little nuances. Like, I'll give you a good example. Like, you have a group of homeless people, they run into this money, and then Kentucky Joe has this big idea, let's go buy rich people's clothes. And you could sit back and you could watch this and be like, these clothes look ridiculous, and you can think that they're doing that for a comedic factor and just for the laugh. But it's not. Like, the nuance there is that they're homeless people and they're buying what they think rich people would wear. So it's not a matter of just buying expensive clothes. It's a matter of that they bought clothes in which they think rich people would wear. So they become these caricatures of themselves in these ridiculous clothes. Now, Kentucky Joe probably looks the most stylish, but some of the other clothes that these people bought, yes, they are expensive. Yes, maybe somebody somewhere would buy a suit like that, but all in all, it's probably not supposed to go together the way it did. And that's just one of those minor details and nuances that I picked up throughout the course of the film. You know, it's as if, it's almost like Whit was like, just go with what you think, you know, go with what you feel. And that's, he just let the actors have at it, and that's what they came up with. And I think it worked. I think it worked really well. You know, overall, I gotta be honest, I'd probably give this movie a 7 out of 10. You know, I don't have an exact science to my rating system, but, you know, I could watch it again, and I might actually watch it again anyways, because I want to see what I can pick up on that I missed the first time around. There is a rewatchability to this movie because it is a Christmas movie. You could probably leave it on for 2 or 3 times and just have it running in the background. You wouldn't even know that it's the same movie because of how formulaic a lot of these other Christmas movies are. But if you actually sit down and watch it, pick up on the details and the nuances, you can learn to appreciate the movie. So shout out to Whit Whitman for letting me get a screener and watching this. The movie is not available yet. It will be available video on demand as of November 19th. They are going to have their red carpet premiere as well, I believe in Albany, Indiana. So I wish them the best of luck with that and their future endeavors. Whit Whitman's got a lot of things coming down the pipeline. I did see an interview with him talking about a lot of the stuff that he's been working on. He's got another like 4 films that are hopefully coming out next year. And he's been working and writing on a fantasy series. So it'd be interesting to see if that comes to fruition. Not sure if it would turn out to be a TV series or if it would turn out to be a web series or if he would have to break it down and make it a series of movies. But something that he seems to be very passionate about and has been working on for quite some time. And I definitely want to be involved and check that out when it's available. So Whit, keep me in mind for anything that you got coming down the pipeline. I'm always more than happy to take a look at your stuff. You did a really good job with Unnatural. You did a really good job with Homeless for the Holidays. I know he's got another movie coming out next year with Al Snow that is going to be a wrestling musical. And I want to take a hot second to just say that I appreciate the fact that Whit Whitman has the things that he's done is never like the same thing. So we've seen him do Western horror, and now we've seen him do a Christmas comedy. Now we're going to see him do a wrestling musical. And the beauty of it is and I don't know if he does this on purpose. I'm sure he does, but he takes very polar opposite types of genres and manages to cram them together in this independent filmmaking business that he has, and he's doing a very good job. So guys, look up Whit Whitman on Facebook. He'll probably friend you. You can follow him. Check out littlemonsterentertainment.com to keep up with all the news and notes and stuff that's coming down the pipeline from them. Go check out Al Snow, former WWE superstar. Like and follow, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Check out John Wells as well. And I will see everybody in the next video.